All right, so we're picking up with chapter 36. We got cut off on Friday and I wasn't able to record a second video. So we're picking up right after Mr. Daniels confronts Allie after she was upset about what happened in class. So that afternoon, Mr. Daniels moves his king, placing it on a black square between his own bishop and my knight. And I see the three of us, Albert, Keisha, and me. With Keisha as a bishop, tall and powerful and able to move across the entire board in one move. With Albert being the king, the piece with a ton of value, but the one unable to move more than one space at a time, always taking tiny steps, always running from and hiding behind the others. And then there's the knight, the piece that Mr. Daniels says is the clever one, the best piece for catching opponents in a fork, a piece that moves only in an L. I feel like I am the knight, as I've spent my whole life jumping over things. Shay is the queen, the piece with the most power to move and frighten, the piece most protected and sacrificed for. I realize that dealing with Shay every day is like playing chess. She is always looking for your weakness, always trying to get you flustered and to force you into a mistake. Against her, you have to remember that the board is always changing and moving. Keep your eyes open, be careful, have a plan, realize that you can only stay on the defensive for so long. Eventually, you have to take a stand. But no matter what, don't give up, because every once in a while, a pawn becomes a queen. Well, Mr. Daniels asks, pulling me from my mind movie, you've been thinking a long time over there. Thinking about your move? I look back down. I search. I haven't beaten him lately, and I so want to. And then I see it. It's the knight. The answer is the knight. I pick it up, move it, and hold my finger on top to be sure I haven't made a mistake. Yep, I've put his king in check and given him nowhere else to move. Checkmate. He throws up his hands, but seems happy. You didn't let me win, right? Allie, I have three brothers. I'm not capable of letting someone win. He laughs a little. I think you're just invincible. And then he winks and begins taking the pieces off the board and putting them in the box. I am sad the game is over, and I'm relieved that I trust him again. And isn't it funny? I've gone from invisible to invincible. Chapter 37, A Chicken, a Wolf, and a Problem. Because it's Fantastico Friday, Mr. Daniels has planned a puzzle for us to solve. He draws some squiggly lines from top to bottom on the board and tells us it's a river. Then he proves he is the worst artist ever by drawing a chicken, a wolf, and a bag of grain on one side of the water. Mr. Daniels, did you draw that with your eyes closed? Oliver yells. No offense, but that's terrible. He laughs. I'm not offended, Oliver. I have eyes to see it. Then he looks at me. We're not all wired to be gifted artists. Then he adds a little boat, which looks a lot like a banana on the bank of the river. Okay, he says. Here's your problem to solve. You need to get all three of these items across the river, but you can only take one item at a time in the boat. You can't leave the wolf alone with the chicken because the chicken will become lunch. You can't leave the chicken with the grain or the grain will become lunch. So how do you get all three items across the river? Remember, only one item in the boat at a time. Easy, Oliver yells. You just take the chicken first. What happens after that? Then you take the grain. But what will happen to the grain when you go back for the wolf? After a couple of seconds, Oliver drapes himself over his desk. Mr. Oliver pats Oliver on the back. Mr. Daniels pats Oliver on the back. It's okay, kiddo. It's supposed to be hard. Mr. Daniels turns to Suki. Any ideas? She puts her pointer finger on her chin. If you take grain first, wait. If you take wolf, she sighs and shrugs, so I don't know. Albert's eyebrows are scrunched up. They look like they'll cover his eyes. Take a few minutes to try and solve this on your own. Then we'll talk about it in a bit. I can't figure it out. No one can. Most of the kids have drawn a river and the animals like Mr. Daniels did. After a while, kids start talking to each other. I'm surprised when he doesn't tell us to be quiet while we try to keep solving it. I tear off 3 little pieces of paper and draw the chicken on the first, the grain on the second, and the wolf on the third. I move them around back and forth across the river. The class is loud now. I pick up my 3 pieces of paper and ask Mr. Daniels if I can work in the hallway because of the noise. Sure, go ahead. I'm out there just a few minutes, moving my pieces around when Shay and Jessica come out. They sit across the hall from me. I guess they came out here to work too? This is dumb, Jessica says. Tell me about it, Shay answers. Who cares about chickens and wolves or whatever? Do you know the answer, Allie? Jessica asks.